Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha,
Yom Kippur, the day has arrived, but how have we arrived at this day, this year? How do we repair, renew, and heal when we are still in the midst of the brokenness of this pandemic? How might this day be both a gift for our souls and also an inspiration to reach toward our higher selves and rededicate ourselves to the work of Tikkun Olam, repairing our world? We invite you on a spiritual journey. We will address these different questions at moments along the way, some tonight, some tomorrow morning, and some tomorrow afternoon. Tonight begins with a call. Listen deeply. Begin to go within. When the morning comes, we will continue. Yom Kippur calls upon us to make this one life of ours a life of purpose. And so we take an inventory of our deeds and we recommit to the ongoing effort. By the late afternoon of any normal year, exhaustion starts to set in. The story of Jonah tugs at our own judging internal voices, imploring us to consider others with the compassion that we hope will be offered up to us. This year, many of us feel that exhaustion before we even begin. So Yom Kippur afternoon will be about healing of spirit and body. First, with our Yizkor service, we will carry each other through those deep waters. So much loss to take in this year. And then with a healing service to offer hope and lift us up as we head toward the end of the day. And finally, Ne'ilah is all about hope and possibility and connection. And just as we began together on Erev Rosh Hashanah, so we will be providing opportunities for those connections by bringing everyone together in our Zoom room for those closing moments. I take this time to outline the journey of the day so that you will know at what times and in which ritual moments we will seek to acknowledge and address all of the spiritual needs that we may be carrying, so that you don't miss that which you need the most. So now we begin. Tonight begins with a call to listen deeply, to go within, and as we listen to the pleading tones of Kol Nidrei, played by our congregant Joshua Gordon, accompanied by Jim Barkovic, let the sounds penetrate deeply. As we prepare to light the festival candles in our sanctuary together, if you have festival candles set up at home, we invite you to prepare them, along with your Yizka candle, your memorial candle, to light with us.
We continue on page 9 in our prayer book. The human spirit is the lamp of God, searching out what lies within us. Guided by the flame of conscience, on this sacred night we search for truth. Shine your light upon us as we strive to serve you. May we find safety in your faithful love. We light the flame of healing and forgiveness. On this atonement night, we give thanks for love.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner lehadlik ner shel yom tov. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kiyamanu v'higyanu lazman hazeh.
As we come now to the Kol Nidrei, we'll be taking the Torah scrolls from our ark, and we invite you to rise in body or spirit.
Shashana Miyom Kippurim Zeh Ad Yom Kippurim Haba Betelin umevutalim la sheririn vela kayamin nitrana la nidrei Vesarana la esare Ushivuatana la Shevuat.
A man is taking a walk in a park on a windy day, and he comes to a field where he sees a young girl with her eyes cast up at the sky. Her hands are holding something, but he can't see what it is. As he comes closer, he's still confused by what he sees. And so he asks the young girl, "What are you doing?" And she replies, "At the end of this string, high up in the clouds, is a kite." The man looks upwards, again trying to follow the young girl's gaze. "It must be so high. I can't see it at all." "How do you know that the kite is still really there?" The young girl responds, "I can feel the tug. I can feel the tug." Yom Kippur is about bringing our attention to all of the ways that we are connected to something that is beyond ourselves. If we are still, we might hear that call. We might feel the tug. Only then can we begin to respond. And this is the call to prayer. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael,
be seated. At the beginning of creation, God spoke, and primordial light infused all existence, contained in radiant vessels. An intention arose in the mind of God to create a being capable of choice, able to distinguish good from bad, holy from profane. God breathed in Tzimtzum, and for the smallest moment was absent to make space for human beings, to develop their godly essence. As expressed in the divine intention, let us make the human being according to our image. Utter darkness reigned, the forces of chaos tore at the cosmos, the vessels were broken, all creation threatened to fall asunder. At that instant, when darkness was complete and creation was in peril, the human being came into existence. And God breathed out again, filling the universe once more with splendor. But what of the rays of light that escaped from the broken vessels? Were they lost forever? Now the fusion of divine intention and human potential becomes clear, for human beings are able and thus commanded to retrieve the wandering rays of light, those entangled in darkness, lost in unlikely corners of the universe. Each act of kindness, each effort to be human in inhuman circumstances, returns a spark of light to its source. The rays of light are everywhere, and when all have been retrieved and uplifted, the messianic time of peace will be upon us. For those who are following along in their own Machzor or in the online flipbook, we are continuing now on page 40.
Ki fadar Adonai et Yaakov, u'kihalom yad chazak mimenu. Baruch atah Adonai, God Israel.
When fears multiply and danger threatens, when sickness comes, when death confronts us, it is God's blessing of Shalom that sustains us and upholds us, lightening our burden, dispelling our worry, restoring our strength, renewing our hope, reviving us. We continue with Hashkivenu, page 42.
Adonai Eloheinu
And we continue with Amidah. This evening will be an opportunity for reflection and personal prayer time with just some words of poetry to give us that vessel into which we can begin to pour our prayers or simply go to that still place to listen deeply. If you wish and are able, please rise.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agite hilatecha Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agite hilatecha O God, open up my lips as I begin to pray. Oh God, open up my lips as I begin to pray. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agite hilatecha Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agite hilatecha.
When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time I rest in the grace of the world and am free. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. Blessed One, you spread over us a canopy of peace, a shelter of shalom over all Israel, your people, and over Jerusalem.
We take a couple of moments now to be in personal prayer and meditation.
The sages and the prophets did not yearn for the messianic time in order to have dominion over the entire world, to rule over the Gentiles, to be exalted by the nations, or to eat, drink, and celebrate. Rather, they desired to be free from oppression and disturbance, so that they might immerse themselves in Torah and wisdom, and thus merit the world to come. In that era, there will be neither famine nor war, envy nor competition. For goodness will flow in abundance, and all delights will be freely available as dust of the earth. The entire world will be occupied solely in seeking to know God. As Scripture says, the earth shall be full of the knowledge of God as water covers the sea. Let this be my prayer for personal redemption. Uninterrupted time to breathe and think. Time to ask myself the purpose of all my frantic striving. Time to bask in the radiance of what is. On this night of atonement, grant us, God, a sense of your presence as we call upon your name. Speak your hopeful message to each yearning heart and answer the worthy petitions of each searching soul. Purify and strengthen our noble strivings and cleanse us of all our unworthy desires. Join us together in fellowship and in love, and grant us the joy which comes from enriching other lives. Help us to be loyal to the heritage we share. Draw us near to the Torah in wisdom and in faith. Strengthen our devotion to our people everywhere. Keep alive our faith in righteousness and truth. Strengthen our devotion to our people. Bless us with hopes to uplift our daily lives, and keep steadfast our courage and our resolve at all times. On this night of atonement, help us, God, to be worthy of your presence as we call upon your name.
On Rosh Hashanah, we focused on the theme of creation and creativity. It was an invitation to recognize our capacity to adapt, to respond, to renew. Even in this moment, we can take in the world around us with awe and amazement. And this is a message that's embedded within the first paragraph of the Great Aleinu, one of the themes of the High Holy Days. For Yom Kippur, we're going to shift our focus to the second paragraph of the Great Aleinu, which is the work of tikkun, to fix, to repair, to improve. I want to look at how we do that work through the lens of the prophet in Jewish wisdom. Tomorrow morning, I'll share a deeper examination of that tradition and how each of us can find ourselves in it. Tonight, I'd like to consider where, when, and how we might discern the prophetic voice. Take Jen Anderson. I heard Jen tell her story at the Women's Rabbinic Network Convention last year. And rather symbolically, but also quite literally, Jen described herself as someone who had been wandering through the first 40 years of her life. On the surface, she had attained many of the life achievements that many of us would place on our checklists: a family, a career, some financial stability. But then, a series of back-to-back experiences that are somewhat reminiscent of the book of Job, and life started to fall apart. First it was family, and then a big job project disappeared, and then her work studio was flooded, and everything was gone. With seemingly not much less to lose, or not much more to lose, I should say, Jen took herself on a 40-day journey to a place that had brought her a sense of the holy as a child, the wilderness. She took herself off to camp alone out in the Mojave Desert. And after some time out there, one night she saw a string of lights off in the distance. And it took her a while, as she was watching and listening from afar, to figure out what she was witnessing. And she realized it was a group of traffickers making their way across the desert. And it turned out it was a group of sex traffickers. In that moment, Alone in the wilderness, Jen was struck by a deep sense of calling, an awakening, she calls it. Jen described this as having heard the prophetic voice that was calling from within, calling her to do more than just bear witness in that moment, calling her to act. And that is what she did. Over the next few years, once she returned to LA, she dedicated herself to the work of educating and advocating and tackling the sex trafficking industry in her city. She would speak at places of worship, calling out faith traditions and ideas that contribute to a society that sees women as objects with second-class status. She worked to identify and bring the law in to shut down brothels that were using trafficked women. And her work led to 4 such places in LA being shut down. She helped also to bring down the number of websites that provided the marketplace for trafficked women. Now, Jen, at this point, a number of years later, is working on her next project. Her wilderness experience was for her about stripping away all of the superficial layers of her life and getting to a place where she could listen, deeply listen to that call from within. She's building a retreat center in the desert for others to come and do that listening for themselves. Tomorrow morning, we'll be hearing the Torah verses chanted, and they say that this Torah that we teach is in our hearts to know it. It's in our mouths to speak it. The prophetic voice lives within each and every one of us, but only if we cease from all of those surface desires, acquisitions that cover over the deeper meaning of this one life that we've been given. Can we hear it? Jen asks each of us, do you know what is your prophetic voice? Can we use the gift of this day to be still enough to start to listen? Earlier in our service, we read a passage that describes the creation of the world and the creation of humanity through a space that existed for a moment of God's inhale. And in the exhale, we were breathed into being. Jen offered a thought that reflects on this that I found so beautiful, but also so incredibly challenging, calling me to account. She said, God's gift of life is our inhale. Our gift to God is what we do with our exhale. God's gift of life is our inhale, and our gift to God is what we do with our exhale. Isn't that ultimately what Yom Kippur is all about? What have we been doing with our exhale? What might we yet still do? We're all searching for our way through the wilderness. We think we have to keep moving forward on the same path that we are on, just taking one step after another. But perhaps what we need, at least one day a year, and probably longer if we can create that space, is to just be still long enough to attune ourselves and find the prophetic voice within. If we can hear it, if we can follow it, we will find our way. At this time, we're going to move to the first of the series of readings that are found throughout our Yom Kippur services, the Vidui, the series of confessions. And we begin with Ashamnu on page 82.
Ay, 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 Ashamnu,
Ashamnu,
Bagadnu,
Bagadnu,
Gazalnu,
Gazalnu,
Dibarnu Tofi,
Dibarnu Dofi,
ay, 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 ay,
Anu sheker.
Ay, 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 ay. Yatznu ra,
Yatznu ra.
kisavnu,
Kisavnu.
latznu,
Latznu.
maratnu,
Maradnu.
nihatznu,
Niasnu.
savranu,
Saranu.
avinu,
Avinu.
pashanu,
Pashanu.
Saranu,
Saranu.
Kishinu Oref,
Kishinu Oref.
Ay, 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 Rashanu,
Rashanu.
Shichatnu,
Shichatnu.
Tiavnu,
Tiavnu.
Tainu,
Tainu.
Titanu,
Titanu.
Achit shechatanu lefanecha, bezazonu vishgaga, ve'achit shechatanu lefanecha, v'dibur peh.
For these sins, O God, we ask forgiveness. The ways we have wronged you deliberately and by mistake, and harm we have caused in your world through the words of our mouths.
Al-chet shechatanu lefanecha be'imut haleh, ve'al-chet shechatanu lefanecha be'tifshut peh. The ways we've wronged you by hardening our hearts and harm we have caused in your world through careless speech.
Achit shechatanu lefanecha, bechachash uvechazav, ve'achit shechatanu lefanecha, birchilut.
The ways we have wronged you through lies and deceit, and harm we have caused in your world through gossip and rumor.
Achit shechatanu lefanecha biflilut, ve'al-chet shechatanu lefanecha bizilzul chorim umorim. The ways we've wronged you by judging others unfairly, and harm we have caused in your world through disrespect to parents and teachers.
Achit shechatanu lefanecha, b'vidui peh, ve'achit shechatanu lefanecha, b'chonat re'ah.
The ways we have wronged you through insincere apologies, and harm we have caused in your world by mistreating a friend or neighbor.
Al-chet shechatanu lefanecha b'chozek yad, ve'al-chet shechatanu lefanecha b'masa umatan. The ways we have wronged you through violence and abuse, and harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty in business. For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement.
We dishonor you when we dishonor our society. For our failures of justice, Adonai, we seek forgiveness. For being indifferent to deprivation and hunger while accepting a culture of self-indulgence and greed. For abuse of power in boardrooms, courtrooms, and classrooms, and for accepting the neglect of children and elders, the ill and the weak. For permitting social inequities to prevail, for the lacking the vision to transcend our selfishness, for glorifying violence and turning hastily to war, and for allowing history to repeat itself, for behaviors that risk the future of our planet, and for wreaking havoc on our only true inheritance, God's creation. For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement.
Avinu Malkeinu, hear our voice. Some of us have cancer. Some have lost strength of body. Some have lost memory and speech. Some of us are in pain. Some can't find work. Some of us bear the marks of human cruelty inside where the scars don't show. Some live with depression. Some battle addiction. Many feel alone. Some have known shattered marriages, trust betrayed, hopes destroyed. Some of us have lost the ones we love far too soon, and some have lost a child. All of us have seen suffering in our midst. All of us know the ravages of war, for which there are no words. Avinu Malkeinu, why? Avinu Malkeinu, are you there? Do you care? Avinu Malkeinu, hear our pain, hear our anger, hear our grief. Avinu Malkeinu, here is our prayer. Give us the strength to go on. Give us reasons to get up each day. Give us purpose and persistence. Help us to fend off fear and to hold on to hope. Help us to be kind. Don't make us bow or grovel for your favor. Give us dignity and give us courage. Avinu Malkeinu, show us the way to a year of goodness. Renew our belief that the world can be better. Restore our faith in life. Restore our faith in you. We continue now with the closing part of our service with the Aleinu. And so we stay standing this time.
Aleinu l'shavia l'Adonai, latit gedula liyotzeh bereshit shelo asanu kigayeh haratzot velo samanu kemishpechat adama shelo sam chelkeinu kahem וגורלנו ככל המונם.
As we look to the future and we hope for a better world, it is upon us, aleinu, to rid ourselves of the false idols that divert our attention and our resources when we go after vain pursuits and mindless consumption. It is upon us, aleinu, to seek ways of organizing and governing our communities and our societies that recognize the dignity and equity of all people. It is upon us, aleinu, to do the right thing even when those around us are not, to speak out against injustice even when others remain silent. It is upon us, aleinu, to build a world on the foundations of love and compassion and generosity. Only then will we see the future that we dream of and the better world that we yearn for. Only then will God truly be one and God's name be one.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
As we come to words of Kaddish, we bring to mind all of our loved ones, those who have died during this past year, and those who have died in years past. We bring them to mind, the lives that they lived, and the ways they connected with ours. And together we say these words. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, b'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayei echon v'yom echon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'yemru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach leolam u'lalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'al v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithada v'yitale v'yitalal shmei dekudasha b'richu le'ela mikol berchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiram b'alma v'yemru amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chayim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'yemru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'mromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel V'yemru Amen. May the source of peace bestow peace on all who mourn, and may we be a source of comfort to all who are bereaved. Amen. As our service this evening draws to a close, before one more song together, we will come back together tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. I understand just before we went live that our web host, ShulCloud, was experiencing some problems earlier this evening. We took the advanced step of sending you the individual Boxcast links. That's the service that actually streams for us directly. So if any of you have had difficulties this evening, each of those links are unique for each of the services. So do refer back to the email that was sent out on Saturday evening for those backup ways of being able to join us on the stream during the day. We return.
We return,
We return,
we return,
we return,
we return, return again.
Erev Tov.